You've probably seen it in the movies, right? This absolutely colossal sea monster that leaps out of the water and snacks on a great white shark. But what if I told you the real story of the Mosasaurus is even more wild than anything Hollywood could cook up? For more than 100 years, science saw this thing as a slow, clumsy sea snake. But that picture? It was completely, utterly wrong. So let's dive in and unmask the true prehistoric titan.
And this is the central puzzle that we're going to tackle. On one hand, you've got fossils screaming that this was a globally dominant apex predator. But on the other hand, for the longest time, our scientific models suggested it was a pretty inefficient, almost awkward swimmer. It just doesn't add up. And that contradiction? Well, that's exactly what we're going to solve.
Our story really kicks off, not with some big, beautiful skeleton, but with a bunch of confusing bits and pieces. Bones that would seriously baffle some of the smartest people of the 18th century. Okay, so check this out. The first piece of the puzzle, a skull fragment, turns up in 1764, and nobody knows what to make of it. Is it a whale? Maybe some kind of giant crocodile? It took more than 40 years until this brilliant anatomist Georges Cuvier looked at it in 1808 and proposed something truly wild. This was a giant, extinct marine lizard. Now, you have to remember, back then, the whole idea of extinction was still a hot debate, so this was a huge deal. It wasn't until 1822 that it finally got its name, Mosasaurus, which just means lizard of the Moose River, after the spot in the Netherlands where it was found. So, they finally figured out it was a giant lizard. Awesome. The next big question was, well, how did it move? And for the next century and a half, the answer seemed super obvious, but it was completely wrong.
Scientists looked at the Mosasaurus's long, really flexible backbone and saw, a pretty striking resemblance to modern snakes. So that led them to this idea of whole-body undulation. Basically, they thought the entire animal moved in this S-shaped wave, kind of like an eel does today, pushing against the water to move forward.
So, based on the evidence they had at the time, the bendy spine, the little paddle-like fins that were great for steering but not for power, the scientific consensus painted a really clear picture. This was a slow, sluggish ambush hunter, a creature that had to just lie in wait for prey to swim by, not something that could actively hunt things down in the open ocean.
And right there, that's the big problem. The fossil record was telling a totally different story. Mosasaurus was a runaway success. Its bones are found all over the world, on every continent, and it dominated the oceans for over 25 million years. A slow, inefficient swimmer just doesn't become a global superpower like that. Something just wasn't right. Something was missing.
And that missing piece of the puzzle? It would show up in the form of fossils so perfectly preserved they almost seem impossible. Fossils that would completely tear down the old image and build a new one from scratch.
Normally only the hard stuff like bones and teeth fossilize. But every once in a while, under these incredibly rare conditions, soft tissues like skin and cartilage can leave behind an impression. These amazing fossil sites are called Lagerstätten, which is German for storage place, and they are like treasure chests for paleontologists. And for Mosasaurus, one of these treasures held the secret the skeleton alone couldn't tell us.
And this was the mind-blowing breakthrough. These impressions of skin and cartilage showed that the end of the Mosasaurus's tail didn't just taper off like a snake's. No way. It actually bent downwards, supporting a huge vertical crescent-shaped fin on top. It wasn't a sea snake's tail at all. It was a shark's tail. And that single discovery, it changed everything.
This is a classic example of something we call convergent evolution. You've got a reptile and a fish, two totally separate animals, evolving the exact same high-performance design because it's just the best solution. Wiggling your whole body is super tiring and wastes a ton of energy. But tail-driven propulsion? Oh, that's a different story. It focuses all the muscle power into one spot, like an engine, generating incredible forward thrust. The Mosasaurus didn't slither through the water, it flew.
So with this brand new, high-performance engine bolted on, the Mosasaurus was no longer a sluggish ambusher. It was transformed into one of the most terrifying predators of all time.
First, let's just try to wrap our heads around the scale here. Based on the biggest skull fragments we found, some of these animals could have hit 18 meters. That's nearly 60 feet long. That's longer than a school bus. It's in the same size category as a modern sperm whale. Just massive. And it wasn't just long, it was a true heavyweight. A big Mosasaurus could weigh up to 15 tons. Now to put that into perspective, that's way heavier than a big Tyrannosaurus rex. Yeah, heavier than a T-Rex. It was the undisputed heavyweight champ of the Late Cretaceous.
Its main weapon was a jaw literally built for destruction. Its skull was reinforced to handle incredible stress, and its bite force is estimated to be somewhere around 16,000 psi. And that's insane. And its teeth were shaped like prisms, which made them incredibly strong and perfect for not just punching through, but for gripping and slicing apart anything it bit down.
So now, armed with that powerful shark-like tail, Mosasaurus could hit speeds around 30 miles per hour. And we actually have proof this changed how it lived. By studying the chemical signatures inside its tooth enamel, a process called isotope analysis, scientists can tell where it was hunting. And the chemistry shows a clear shift from coastal prey to deep ocean animals. It wasn't waiting by the shore anymore, it was chasing down fast prey in the open sea.
So what was on the menu? Honestly, a better question is what wasn't on the menu. We have fossil evidence showing it ate giant fish, sharks, huge sea turtles, other big marine reptiles like plesiosaurs. It even ate other mosasaurs. It was the absolute, undisputed king of its entire ecosystem.
But its time at the top wasn't peaceful. Not at all. The fossil record paints a picture of an incredibly violent and brutal life. And a lot of that violence came from its own kind.
This is one of my favorite fossils. Just imagine a fight so intense that one Mosasaurus bites another on the face, and bites so hard its tooth breaks off and gets stuck deep inside the other one's jawbone. But here's the crazy part. The bone around the tooth shows signs of healing. This animal survived that horrifying injury and just lived its life with the tooth of its rival stuck in its face. What a story.
But not all of them were so lucky. Other fossils show us catastrophic injuries, crushed skulls, deep puncture wounds, and broken bones with absolutely no signs of healing, which tells us the animal died from the attack. Paleontologists think they fought a lot like modern crocodiles, with lots of grappling and powerful headbutts, probably over things like territory, mates, or a good meal.
So, when you step back and look at this whole journey, from a sluggish sea snake to this open ocean super predator, what does it all tell us? Well, it reveals something really fundamental about how science actually works. For an incredible stretch of time, we're talking over 25 million years, this animal was the planet's top marine predator, period. Its dynasty spread across all the world's oceans, and its reign only ended because of the most famous catastrophe in Earth's history, the asteroid impact that brought the age of reptiles to a fiery close.
I think what the story of Mosasaurus shows us, maybe better than any other animal, is that our understanding of the past is never set in stone. For 200 years, we had one picture of this creature, and then the discovery of just a few amazing fossils completely flipped the script. It rewrote decades of scientific thinking and changed our view of an entire ancient ecosystem.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating thought to end on. Mosasaurus was one of the very first giant prehistoric reptiles ever found, yet we've only just recently figured out what it was truly like. So it makes you wonder, right? If we were this wrong for this long about Mosasaurus, what other secrets are still locked away in stone, just waiting for that one right discovery to change everything we think we know about the ancient world?